Good morning, I'm Candace Bavito for WSDR, and with me today, as always, every other Monday, is Genesis Haycrick from Genesis Speaks, or genesisspeaks.com. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Great.
Good.
Happy to be here.
Good, I'm glad. I always like to hear that. Usually, to kickstart my Monday, I'm usually a little bit crabby, but folks, she has a tendency to brighten my mood a little bit. Being a motivational speaker, I really don't have any choice. So, Genesis, today we're talking about body language.
Yes, one of my favorite topics.
Okay.
I absolutely love this, so I'm really excited.
All right. So, in regards to body language, I wrote some notes here to myself. When you have an initial meeting with someone, how do you go about building your relationship with customers or clients by using their body language to go forward?
That's a really great question because a lot of the time when we walk into a meeting, we have an idea of what we want to do, what we want to say, and we think that we're understanding the situation if we're prepared for it. Now, if somebody's sitting in a certain way, that means something. So if they're sitting back in a chair, for example, they may not be as interested or excited about this opportunity to meet you as you are to meet them. So you have to really consider what they're doing. So
Body language, I want to back up just a little bit. I guess I should have, most people have sort of a perception on what body language is. So let's talk just briefly about what we're going to talk about today. The actual subject of body language and how it pertains to, like you said, to a client or a consumer that you are talking to. Basically, it gives you signals. So it tells you how to speak to them. It tells you how to approach someone sometimes. And I don't want that to be in a negative way. It's not like you're being sneaky. It just helps you kind of read a person so you know how to speak to them on their level.
Right. Yes, and you want to be able to relate to your clients as much as you possibly can. And because so much of the way that we communicate, about 80 to 90% of our communication is in our body language in comparison to what we're actually saying. So the way that we look at people, the way that we're facing, how we are interacting with our hand gestures, all of those things come into play when we're having conversations and when we're building relationships.
Well, I'm very animated, as you know, so I talk and move my hands around all the time. And folks, I know you can't see it, but I do. Everything I emphasize or anything that I'm really excited about, I have my hands flying all over the place, and Genesis just smiles and keeps going. So, Genesis, how do you read a person as far as their comfort level? Can you tell me some things that people do when they are comfortable with you?
When somebody's comfortable with you, typically they're making eye contact. So that means that they're fully engaged. They're having a conversation and they want to know what you have to say. And, you know, if somebody's looking as though they're discontented, they're looking away, they're not really interested in the conversation. Possibly if their arms are crossed, if their knees are facing away from you, those are all examples of disinterest in that conversation. So those are really important things to look for when you're having an initial meeting with someone.
So if they're looking away or they're glancing at other things in the room, it's time to step it up and it's time to either switch the topic or go on to something else.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So can people change their body language?
Oh, absolutely. And this is something that I work on with my clients all the time, is when they think about what they do on a typical basis. Normally we have habits. We either use our hands or we don't when we speak. We either make really great eye contact or we don't. If I think about the end result of this conversation, what do I ultimately want to achieve from what we're doing right here? And if making more eye contact is going to help you build that relationship better, then that's something definitely to work on.
And what about the person, we're talking about eye contact and changing some of our behaviors, basically, the cues that other people pick up on. And I've seen this being in the business that I'm in, so I need you to kind of explain this for the listeners and myself. But occasionally, I've heard a client say to me, that people think I'm unapproachable. And I think that is due to their body language, that someone else sort of misinterpreted really what kind of person they are. And they're sitting there thinking, why is no one approaching me? Or no one's ever, I ask questions and they say, Candace, no one ever asked me that. And they
That's
answer
very
me
true.
and they're surprised that I am forward, but you know how I am. I'm pretty straightforward. If I want a question to be answered, I'll ask it. And I feel like there's that other group out there that, you know, they do want to talk to you. They do want to pursue some sort of business relationship, but if they're not brought or engaged into a conversation, you can't proceed. So how can that person change their body language so that more people feel comfortable about talking to them?
You know, it's all about choice, really. It's, you know, how you decide you will go about your day is simply a choice that you make, right? And you have a choice to have a specific mindset. You have a choice to have a specific attitude every single day. You also have a choice about how you are going to be perceived from your potential client or an individual you're building relationships with. So something that you can think about is when you're having a conversation, take notes to yourself and say, what am I doing right now? What does my body look like? Am I facing the person that I'm talking to? Am I clearly engaged when I'm speaking to them? And am I actually listening to what they're saying? Listening is one of the most important pieces of body language that we can incorporate, because if you're not listening, you're not truly hearing what the individual is saying, and that's one of the most essential pieces of sales, of selling yourself, of authentically building a relationship.
And one thing that I think that goes a long way, Genesis, is just a simple smile.
Yes.
You know, whether meeting somebody or in the process of that conversation, a smile goes a long way.
You can do everything wrong and smile and come out on top.
That's true. That is true. That is true. So what body parts, if I may, what body parts are most noticeable?
Well, as we kind of spoke about before, definitely the eyes. So that shows that you are engaged in the conversation. One thing that it always interests me is when I'm having a conversation with somebody and they are turned away, their feet are facing towards the door, but yet the top part of their body is facing me. So what subconsciously that means is that they're not fully engaged in the conversation that we're having. So something to be reflected upon is, are you facing them directly as they're facing you? Be a reflection and a mirror, essentially, of what your client is doing, because that will better help them to relate to what you're saying and also help them to feel more comfortable.
Okay. Well, those are good tips today, Genesis, and as always, I enjoy when you're here, my friend. So, folks, that is Genesis Speaks from genesisspeaks.com, here every other Monday on WSDR.